Sit with Lexi B.
Hi, Angela. How are you?
Hello, how are you? I'm doing very well.
I am wonderful. I am wonderful. So I need to do a first shout out. I met you when we were working at the same company. And I remember that I joined during COVID,
Yes,
right? Because my first day at the company was when the company shut down for
yes,
COVID. And so I'm
exactly.
trying to get to know all these people. And all of these people were like, you have to go talk to this woman named Angela. And I'm like, who is Angela that everybody's talking about? And it just so happened that we're in the same department. I somehow got on your calendar and I was like, oh, Angela's the shit. I want to shout you out. I want to give you your flowers so you hear them and you see them. But Angela, because of you, I am. And so many people at that company were. And you need to
Mm,
know that.
thank you. That actually means a lot coming from you because I feel the same way about you. I feel like meeting you changed me and that you taught me so much. And every time I speak with you, I learn from you. And so I think it's wonderful that we met each other because we have the synergy, as they say in the tech companies. That to me is life changing and a very thankful to God for.
And also for the record, y'all, Angela somehow got Wakanda Forever tickets the day before the movie came out, rented out a movie theater, and then dressed up as a Wakandian,
Yes,
and
I
then got
did.
us all free popcorn. It
Yes.
was a great evening. It was Thursday at like I'm out on a Thursday at midnight watching Wakanda Forever because Angela, that movie was 8.5 hours long.
Yes, it
Okay,
was. It
so I put
was.
it out there.
But
It
you
was eight and a
know,
half hours long.
that's community building and it's so important because all of the kids that were there were kids of color who couldn't afford the movie. And so now they went from not being able to afford it to seeing it first. And that's what means a lot to me is to build community and to give us the type of opportunities that others see and give their own, but we don't necessarily always have for our own. So that's actually very important to me.
So before we get into this conversation about emotions and money, which
Yes.
is very important, what is in your coffee cup? What are you drinking with us today?
I have tea and I love tea, all types of tea. My husband loves coffee. His favorite is Jamaican coffee. So I believe it's Green Mountain coffee from Jamaica. That's his favorite. So I sometimes will put that in my cup. But for me, I like chamomile tea. I'm so plain. I like it not too much caffeine. I like the smooth taste of it. And I like the fact that I can drink it all day and it doesn't affect my mood.
And where are your people from, Angela? Where are your people from?
Well, I know because of 23andMe that my real people are from the Ashanti tribe in Ghana, and so yes,
Really? You're
well,
Ashanti?
I am
Okay.
like a
Okay.
lot, like a lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But in the diaspora, they went many places, and so I have people in St. Kitts, I have people in Brazil, I have people in Jamaica. And of course, I have a lot of people that came from North Carolina, Goldsboro, North Carolina, 506 School Street. That's where my people and the people that have put the most into me are from 506 School Street in Goldsboro, North Carolina.
So tell us about those people and money.
Ooh, this is a good one.
Because I think you're right, sis. I think that money is an emotional conversation, which is interesting because we work in industries that say things like keep emotions out of business, when I think business is 100% emotional because money is 100% emotional.
Absolutely.
When did you realize or identify your emotion to money?
It was actually quite early, and it was thanks to my grandmother, Australia Dugan, my maternal grandmother on my mother's side. And early on, she told me, she says, the money you have and the money you spend is not what's in your wallet, it's what's in your heart. She said, many people spend money they don't have because of their heart. And she told me that very, very early. So she would tell me, she's like, you have to figure out a way to take your heart and balance it with your checkbook. He says, yes, she believed in cash and carry. She says, if you don't have money for it today, you're not going to have money tomorrow plus interest. So she says you have to really learn discipline, how to save up for the things you want, because you're going to have to learn how to put boundaries on money. Even if you want to help someone or want to do something, you might not be able to. And you have to learn patience. She's saying because so often we want everything monetarily at one time or now. And sometimes we have to build and save. So very young, she told me that. And so I knew it. So I was always saving. I remember when I was 10 years old, I had a little box with money in it. And I would take my any allowance, any money I found, I put it in a box. And I would tell people, you can take money out, but then you'd have to put money back plus $2.
Angela said, "I'm gonna get mine plus interest." Okay.
It really wasn't tested on me. I have to be honest, until my mother passed away. My mother passed away in 2012. And at that time, I'm looking around, I didn't feel that old. I think I was like maybe 35 or so. I didn't feel that old. But now everybody's looking at me like, oh, I'm the matriarch of the family. Huh. Well then. Um, and so people started coming to me with, my light bill is out. I can't make my mortgage. My kids' school fees are behind. All types of requests were starting to come to me now. They used to go to my mother for money. And I'm thinking, oh, and everybody would say, well, you have it. Well, how do I know what I have? And I'm thinking, well, what makes you think that I have it? Which was very odd because I really, I didn't talk. I'm not, you know me so much. I'm just not braggadocious. I'm not that person. So I thought to myself, this is very strange. And I remember what my grandmother said, but then it would hit at my emotions, especially people with children. I would think about people with children and are your lights out? Would you might get evicted? And if I have it, why shouldn't I give it? Didn't God bless me with this to bless others? Because I had been taught growing up to serve, that our whole purpose on life is to serve. I have been taught to give because the more you give, the more you receive because God appreciates a giver. So I had all these religious, and I didn't even realize it. I did not realize it until the requests started to come in. And I had to take a strong look at myself because I had kids of my own. And I had to really think about how I was going to create these boundaries that were comfortable for me. And it was difficult. And I want to be very clear. I got a therapist. I'm going to say this again. I got a therapist. And I want to talk to you about emotions and money because I had just started. People knew you could just say my child and then I would give you money.
I'm a very similar way. Like when you bring it to me and it's about the babies, right? I will do anything in my power because I look at it as what if that was my child, right? So I understand that completely. Uh, I've actually never met someone who sought out therapy because of money. And I find that so intriguing and so responsible of you. So when you went to your therapist and you were like, "Hey, my name's Angela. I'm here because money." What was your therapist thought?
The first thing she says is money is the way this is playing out, but this is not about money. Because I want to be with that. And she says there's some underlying issues that we need to uncover that are playing themselves out with money. But she says, please understand this is not about money. And I thought, oh, okay, well, let's see. And then so many things came out, a few of which I want to share with you because I think there are a lot of women, especially African American women, daughters of immigrants. I'm all of those things that can relate to this. And so I want to say a few things. Number one, the eldest daughter. I am the eldest daughter. And we could probably have a whole session in therapy. We could probably on eldest daughter syndrome. But then you take
Girl, I'm the eldest daughter too. And that might have put me in therapy. There is
the
something about being the eldest daughter.
Absolutely.
family, especially a black family,
Yes.
because you
Yes.
could have three brothers ahead of
Mhm.
you, but the expectations of you as the eldest daughter versus them are different. Are
Oh,
different.
it's astounding.
Yes.
And then you add immigrant in there as well, and it's a whole nother flavor. So I realized I was working through a few things. Number one, I had always been the responsible one, and I had learned from very young that if I did everything right and I was perfect, I was safe, right? There wasn't too much heat on me, right? So I learned to be extremely responsible, trying to do everything the perfect way, trying to make everybody happy as a safety mechanism. That works as a child, but my therapist was very clear. Things that we do as children to become safe don't always translate into helping us as adults. So she says, number one, you are not the elder of your family by far. She's like, there are plenty of people older than you, more experienced than you in this family. So she says, let's talk about that. She says, number two, she's like, you don't have an obligation to consistently save people's children if they don't put in the correct mechanisms to do that. She says, because there will come a time when you won't have enough for your children and they will not be there. And not maybe because they don't want to, they simply can't. She says, you give away all your savings, you run through all your money. Those people are not in a position to help
And I
you.
would also argue if they don't have the money for their kid,
Yeah.
they're not going to have the money for somebody else's kid.
And that was her point. And
Okay.
so that was another strong one. And then number three, she this was a big one for me. She's like, are you afraid that you will lose family because you don't give them money? Mm, right? Mm-mm. And it really made me think of the movie Soul Food when Terry had had enough. And she says, I am not the ATM, automatically Terry's money, right? And then I thought, oh, I'm turning into the ATM, Angela's teller machine. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a problem for me. And then I remember my grandmother's words about emotion. And so I started to do something that was a bit unconventional, but it works for me. I would help people and give them access to budgeting, give them access, to different financial help situations, planners, and different things like that. And I would say, you can take advantage of this. Um, I can do this one time, and you take advantage of this planning service. And after that is done, and if the planning service can't help you, I certainly can't help you because I'm not a professional money manager. But you have to learn to live within the means that you have, except in emergency. If you can't pay your light bill every month, then that means that you can't afford that light bill, and we have to think of something else. If you can't pay your mortgage every month, you can't afford that house. We need to think of something else, right? People who have consistently the same requests from you, they always behind the light bill, always behind their mortgage, always behind the school fees. That means that that particular obligation that they've taken on, they can't afford. And so they need to figure something else out, but it can't be you. And that's very difficult, especially when you're thinking about sending a child who lives in an urban area to a Catholic or a private school, right? A lot of people do that. And it's life changing. But if they can't afford it, how can you take on that obligation, especially if you have your own family, or even if you don't? Let me be clear, even if you don't have your own family, you never know what's coming up. I would like to transition and talk a moment about my cancer situation, that I'm a cancer survivor, and why for Black women, money and saving money and not overextending yourself and to seek help for whatever emotional attachment you have for money, why that can be life-saving for Black women. I do want to speak about that.
Well, let's speak about it now. What happened?
Well, in 2015, I had the job of my dreams. I was working as counsel to the governor of New York. We were working on criminal justice reform, and it was my dream job. And I found out that I had breast cancer. And it was a tremendous journey. Uh, three different cancer centers, 3 states, 1 year of treatment, surgery, reconstruction, um, medication, everything. And it was so expensive. I had health insurance, but it was still so expensive. Tens of thousands going on to hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it came to a point where, and I want to be clear about this to everybody, there comes a point when you need certain care because it's so expensive that if you are behind on your medical bills, they do not see you. And I think a lot of people know this, but I want to reiterate it to people. There comes a time where if you are behind on your medical bills, they will not see you. And so when you have things like cancer, when you have things like diabetes, when you have chronic illnesses, you have to stay on top of your medical bills unless they will not see you. And so there came a point where if I didn't have savings, I would not have been able to finish my treatment. And I want to be clear about that. If I did not have savings, I would not have been able to finish my treatment. So saving is so important because when you look at the risk factors and the statistics for Black women in healthcare, especially around cancers, heart disease, maternal health, there are just certain things that Black women need to know. I'm a part of a Black women legal organization, and it's very sad to me how all the time we get notices that Black women have, passed away from strokes or cancer, heart disease. It just happens so regularly because of the stress that we undertake. So if you don't start to handle the emotional hold that you have on money, it can literally cost you your life. And that's something that I want to be very clear about with Black women, especially Black women who are earning a good salary, who are making good money, and who are taking on obligations to help people beyond what anybody should be asked to do. It's something that's very prevalent in our community, and I want to speak to those women and tell them that it's okay to seek therapy, to figure out ways in which you can start to undo some of those obligations. And I also want to tell them that there will come a time that you will need that money, if not for healthcare, for retirement, but you will need that money, and there won't be, if people are asking you for money, they will not be able to help you when you need money. So that is something that I think a lot of people don't think about because they think I'll always be working, I'll always be making this amount of money.
So let's also acknowledge that I think a lot of people assume that when you're talking about money issues, and there's a spectrum of money issues, that we're talking about people that are on the low economic spectrum. But what I am learning in the corporate world is there are a whole lot of people making tens and hundreds of $1,000s a month
Mhm.
who also have money problems.
Yeah.
Last season, we had a financial advisor. Her name is Robin. Shout out to Robin. She's wonderful. We did a whole episode where basically Cliff Note version, she said, if you want more money and or need more money, you have to make more
She's
money.
right.
The days in society are over where you can just save by saying, I'm not going to buy that $5 coffee a day, and that's going to get you what you want. That $5 coffee, if you're trying to save a couple $1,000s a year, that could maybe work. But if you're trying to actually expand your financial lifestyle and make better money decisions, no one cares about that $5 cup of coffee. So based on what you just said, how can people, regardless of their social economic situation, whether it's low or high, how can they manage the money that they have so they are in a position to manage the lifestyle that they have?
I love this question. This is why I love you, Lexi, because you always go so deep and nothing is surface with you. And these are the kind of conversations that I really appreciate. I saw that episode and I was like, yes, everybody needs to make the money that they need, meaning that, like I told some family members, if you aren't making enough to sustain this, then you have to figure out a side hustle, get a second job. I mean, there's so many things that people can do. But yes, I agree with her on that. But the next part is when you do have the money, how do you keep it? This is where the emotional part comes in because I know people, and you and I also, I think, know these same people who are making over $1 million a year, which, hey, God bless them, and they are broke, meaning that they live check to check to check. They are broke. And you think, no, there's no way. You think, and I know people who don't make as much think that's not possible. Oh, it is possible. Some people spend every amount of money they make, meaning that if they were just going to use an example, they were making 50,000, they were living someplace, now they're making 100,000. They move to a bigger place, right? And then they make 150. They might get a Lamborghini. And then so the more money they make, they take on more debt, and they have more responsibilities. And that's actually the opposite of what you should do. The more money you make, you should keep your lifestyle as much as you can the same. If it's good, like if you're, if you need to, there are times when you need to. If you live in a neighborhood that, is dangerous and you want to get out and you have enough money, you should clearly do that. Again, you have to use your common sense. But you should also just not take on debt, and start spending more money just because you make more money. The more money you make, the more money you save. And that's something that people don't realize because of the emotions attached to money. Some people never have money. And so as soon as they get money, they want to buy everything they didn't have when they were younger, right? I know people like that. They have kids, they get their kids all these, and I'm like, your kids don't need it. I mean, it's amazing what people will do. I think there was one in the paper. Didn't this woman spend $27,000 to rent a castle?
The prom?
Yes.
She spent $27,000 on prom. And I remember my prom distinctly, and I had a wonderful time. I would like to shout out my prom. It was lovely. Had a great date, went to Steak and Shake afterwards, had a wonderful dress.
Yes.
And there was no way in heaven, hell, or purgatory that my parents were dropping $27,000 to make my prom night special.
Exactly. And then the interesting thing about it, if you looked at the financials and some of the things, wasn't maybe the wisest choice for that particular person. So all I'm saying is that, but I understood. If you saw the interview, she didn't have this, but she really wanted to give it to her daughter. That was an emotional expense that probably would have been better had another way. And so when you think about emotional spending, it can be on others, it can be on yourself, it can be on your children. But there's that emotional aspect of money as if I have it, now I have to get it, get all the things that I didn't have. That's one emotional spending. Spending on others, helping to the point where are putting yourself in debt to help others. That's emotional spending. And then not budgeting. There's these people that do this. How much money do you make? I don't know. How much money is it? They just don't look. They don't like. I know somebody. It is such a good friend of mine, and she never knows how much is in her bank account. So I don't look. If I just get a notice that I'm, withdrawing, and I'll figure it out later. Yes, such a good job. I was just thinking, oh my goodness. And one day I just lightly said, well, what about retirement? He says, oh, I don't know. I'll think about it when I'm closer to it.
But girl, when you get closer to it, it's too late to think about
Right.
it.
But this is like an epidemic in our community. And so I'm just like, when I tell you that there's so many emotions about money, um, there's, from her family, thinks that she makes enough of it, so she doesn't want to deal with it. And I'll ask another bad one. When we think about money, my grandmother told me this, and I'll never forget it. She says, you have your spend, save, and give. And those are different percentages at different times in your life. But she says that's how you always have to use your money. Spend, save, give. And she's like, try to put as much, and save as you can. And she also told me, like, how the order to pay your bills. Always pay the house note first. If the lights go out, you can light a candle. She's like, the water go off, you can buy some bottled water,
Yeah.
right? But she would tell me the
Yeah.
order with which to pay my bills, right? Credit cards always last. She would always teach me the order to pay my bills. And she would always, tell me that, it's your responsibility because she would say, if you don't keep to this formula and you don't tweak it as you go, she's like, you won't be able, to have money. And it really stuck with me because as I started to grow older and I have more obligations and more people, now my children are going to school, I'm thinking about retirement. Um, I very early knew I needed a money manager. And so I want to say this to all the Black women, especially all of us who, control is an important part of our lives. Find a trusted money manager and give that control away because somebody manages my money. I want to be honest with you. And when they tell me,
Angela, somebody manages my money too.
yeah,
I
hello,
don't, okay? Because I'll be frank with you, since we're going to be
yes,
honest, I was the person in my early 20s who would just not look at my account. And then when I got that overdraft email, then I would
Yeah,
look at it. And that's when I said, you know what? I'm too grown for
that's right.
this. And I got somebody to
That's
manage
right.
my money because that's clear that I don't know how to manage it. And so I needed to outsource those deliverables. And I've been great
Right?
since.
I have such a
Yeah.
beautiful the person who originally managed my money was older and no longer does it, but I found an amazing person to manage my money now. I trust her so much. She's been with me through everything. And she's just so amazing. And she tells me how much play money I have, how much for my retirement. And when that's how much I have. That's it. The rest is with her. And so I have to go to her and ask for it if I want it.
And you better have a good reason why you need it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's so beautiful because that way I don't overspend, and when people ask me, I honestly don't have it, like, not in my account. Somebody else has it. So it's where I can say honestly, "No, I don't have that." And I really don't. I don't have it because I only have enough money in my account for the things that I need, and then that's it. Even, like, if I wanna go on a trip, I plan it, and then I have a separate account with it in which I save, that money. So I would tell people, when you making the least money is when you need the most management, we need those skills. They have, especially at bank, I know, like, Chase has it, um, and I'm not sure of other banks, but people can probably look. The Urban League also has a money management section that you can get referrals from. Find a trusted person. Speak to people that you know and trust. Find a trusted person to help you manage your money and hand it over so that you are living within your means. Living within your means is so important because you might make 150,000 and think, oh, no, you have taxes to pay. You have retirement to fund. You have so many other things that health insurance, whatever, medical fund. There's so many things that you might not even think of that you need, and you have to speak to a professional money manager to help you with those things. And in that way, if you have your money under control when you don't make as much, when you do make more, oh, you really are set. And
Well, I just want to say if y'all see me driving around my 2012 Honda Civic, okay,
yes,
that is fully paid
yes,
off. You know
yes,
why. Okay.
yes.
That's all I have to say
Hello,
about that.
you and me too. Because I have a Chevy Traverse, and by Traverse, I love it. I think it looks so good, and I love my
I love that
again,
car. Yeah.
again, right? We have our nice paid-off cars that we drive around, and mine is big enough for my family. It's beautiful. But again, because my money manager, I know that I have to fund retirement. And I know that because of my health situation, I always have to have funds available for myself for health reasons. And so I have to, fund my children's education. So there's other things that are so important to me, that mean more to me than, people not managing their money well or me showing up in whatever car somebody thinks was nicer. Because so many of us know older people who can't retire. The amount of African Americans, especially African Americans who die on the job, die working, and never have one day of retirement is astounding. And we have that because we don't have the finances here economy because we don't think about it because we're living and our money is emotional. So if there are three things that people could understand is that money is emotional. Have to find out, and maybe you can do it yourself. You can read a book. For me, it was therapy. Find out what that emotion is for you, right? And then third, really find a money manager. It's really important to find a money manager. Everybody, the richest people do not handle their own money. Yes, they have a money manager. It's really important to take that emotion out of your money. The numbers speak for themselves and allow a trusted, again, I say trusted. And I can't, let's take a moment when I say trusted. It means somebody who has a certification, right? They have a money management certification, especially if you're doing stocks and bonds. There are certifications that people need to do that. And also, you have to meet the person, trust them. Hopefully, you get a referral from someone else who manages their money well. You know, there's questions that you need to ask. So you have to do a lot of research on that. You don't just hand your money over to anybody. We could probably do a whole nother session on how to find a trusted money manager because I cannot say that enough. People will steal your money.
They will. Make sure you have referrals from like three to
Yes.
10 people. I know when I got my financial advisor, I got him through a
Yes.
friend, and then I asked the
Yes.
man for referrals, and then I also found other people that I
Absolutely.
knew who had worked
Yes.
with him.
Absolutely.
Because you do not want to give the keys to your financial castle to someone, and then 2 years down the line, we find you have
Absolutely.
$0. You need to be very, very
Yes,
careful.
you have to have a reputable money manager, because if you don't, then this won't mean anything because your money will be gone, right? And so if you take nothing else away from this, please, and people can feel free to reach out to me, to help with that process. I know it well. You have to find a trusted money manager. But once you do that, it just takes so much off of you. And I just want people to know that it's
Mhm.
okay. I had to go through a lot myself, a lot of personal trials and tribulations to get here. So I want to speak to the younger me,
Mm.
um, who didn't quite have the confidence, to make some of those hard choices. And it took a therapist to help me. It took about a year and a half of therapy to get to that point. So I want to talk to the people, who are at that moment and let them know that it's okay, that someone's been through it, that I'm still standing, I'm still feeling good. I still have my relationships, those that matter, the ones that didn't survive, I didn't need them if they didn't survive. Right? And so I really wanted to just reach out to people, especially Black women. And if you're an eldest daughter, Black woman, especially, to hear me today, to look at me today, and to know that it's possible.
When you talk about this, I also think about athletes, right? And we hear these stories of athletes, particularly athletes that, are 18, 19, 20 years old, not going to college or not finishing college, getting multi-million dollar contracts. These are millions of dollars. Imagine your first job after whatever educational program is $20 million over a 5 year period. That's a lot of money. And because of their emotional attachment to money, and because of their lack of knowledge about how to manage money, and the people in their family may not also have that knowledge either, right? 20 million, they're bankrupt in
Absolutely.
3 years. And then you see it on the news, you see it on ESPN, insert so and so's name who plays for the National Football League or for the MLB or for the National Basketball League, and they're broke. Their
Yep.
car got repossessed. They got kicked out of their multi-million dollar home. And of course, the whole tagline is, how did this happen? This person had a 25 million dollar contract. And what I'm hearing from you is how it happened was they didn't know how to manage $25 million. And if you don't know how to manage $25 million, that stuff's going to go away very quickly.
Yes. And that's why I share my story, because that's what happened to me. Like I was, taking on so many things, and luckily I was able to bring myself back from it. But yes, when my mom passed away, it was, that emotional attachment. And this is a thing like the athlete. You're making the most money. That's the point I want to make. When you are the person in your, community and your family who's making the most money, people look to you for their everyday expenses. You feel so indebted to people, right? Feel indebted to your family who supported you through all of these hard times to get to this place, that you would feel like you were turning your backs on them, not to give all the things that they want now that you have money. And I think one of the hardest things to understand is that when you bring a child into this world, when a child is brought into our community, we are raising them up because that's what we're supposed to do. They don't have an obligation then to give us money because we raised them up. Nobody asks to be born, right? And so once they're here, it is our job to raise them up. But they don't have an obligation now to support and fund our whole lives. And I think that's the part, because people say, oh, I can't wait until you make it. When you get older and you make it, we all gonna be okay, right? And it's that whole thought process that everything hangs on this particular person getting this big contract. whether you become a software engineer, whether you start your own company, whether you go play, for a sports league. So many people count on the person that got out, the person that made good, to then fund everybody else's life. And I had to realize that, oh my goodness, if I continue to fund everyone else's life, it hit me like a ton of bricks when I got sick. I'm like, wait a minute, now I have to make choices because I either pay my medical bills or I pay that person's light bill, mortgage, and I'm like, uh-oh, here we go. And it was so hard. I went through so much financial turmoil, so much. And I had realized that my whole life I had been in financial turmoil from people because from a young age, I, was making a lot of more than they were, not a lot comparatively, but more than they were. And so I just was constantly funding other people's medical bills, other people's schooling, other people's everything. And it took me going to a therapist because one reason I had it was because I was good with money. Think about it. The only reason I ever had all this money was because my grandmother told me to save it. So I was working and saving my money, and there were other people out there not saving a dime of their money. And then I was going into my coffers every month, and like honestly, I was funding other people's lives. And I didn't have a fancy car, I didn't have a designer purse, I didn't have any of the things that they had. But I'm paying, it was really toxic. So I say that to say that if you have money to give others, you're taking it out of your future. I took money out of my future. I really did. I took money out of my future to fund other people's lives that they were living that they couldn't afford. So those athletes are doing the same thing. You made it. You have it. That's something people always say. Well, you have it. You have so much money. You have it. Not knowing that when you make that much money, how much expenses they have. They have to pay lawyers. They have to pay their managers. They have to pay their accountants. Their lives are so expensive at that point, and they have so much money to give out. They have to save for their retirement. They don't really play that long, because of injuries and things. So they have to save. Look at what happened to Russell. What is his name? Russell Wilson. He got cut. I mean, luckily he got picked up, but he got cut at the prime of his career. So you just don't know what will happen. And the same thing can happen to anybody. When we're working in these worlds, there's no guarantee that we're always going to make this much money. So we do have to have some savings, and we do have to have, a retirement fund, and, also some play money. It's okay. You know that I used to feel guilty. Do you know that I didn't take a vacation for a while because I felt guilty that I said, oh, I told this person I didn't have money, so I can't be seen on a vacation.
Now, Angela, the one thing I will do is I will be on a plane. Okay? I will be on a plane that is
Yeah,
taking me to an
as we all
island.
should. Yes,
Okay? I don't care who you are.
as we
I'm
all
going to be on.
should. But I'm just saying, like, when I talk about the emotional ties of money, they are so real. And so I really want to be honest
Mm.
about the things that I've done, about the pitfalls I've had. I'm in such a good place now, but I had to work to get here. And I just wanted to
Mm.
also be honest about just because I was good with money and I was good with saving didn't mean I was good to myself, right? Because I was still
Mm.
taking all that money I worked. You know how hard I worked? You know how hard it is.
Yeah,
But
I
also,
know. I was
our
there.
whole careers, you know how hard it is in these corporate world. You know how hard we've had to work. I was taking all that pain and hard work. So I really wanted to be honest about that.
I really appreciate that. So, as we close this episode, I would like you to reintroduce yourself. Who are you?
I am the seventh daughter of the seventh mother, as told to me by 𝐼𝐶𝐬𝐫𝐞, my grandmother. I am her granddaughter. I am her soulmate. I am Patricia Dugan's daughter and her soulmate. And I live every day, every single day, to make them proud because I know that for anything, if you see anything good, it comes from those two men, 𝐼𝐶𝐬𝐫𝐞 and Patricia B. at 506 Fish Street, Goldsboro, North Carolina.